Hi, this is Coach Colette, host of the Start Within podcast, and welcome to this week's episode of Financial Fridays. Have you heard the phrase, once in a blue moon? Well, tomorrow we actually will have a blue moon on October 31st, Halloween night. And that's not the only thing that makes this moon special. October had 2 full moons, one at the beginning of the month and one tomorrow night, which makes it a blue moon. Tomorrow's full moon is also considered both the harvest moon because it appears nearest to the fall equinox, as well as the hunter's moon. Now, typically the harvest moon occurs in September and is followed by the hunter's moon in October. This year, however, since we have 2 full moons, one on the 1st and one on the 31st, that means that both the harvest moon and the hunter's moon happen on October. And as I said, this hunter's moon will be a blue moon. All right, I know, enough data. So, if you listen to this podcast, you know that I am a huge fan of the moon. And you may have heard me mention before that the full moon is a great time for releasing things that no longer serve you. So, what from the month of October do you wish to release, let go of? Tomorrow also is Halloween. And you know, the tradition is this concept of trick or treating. And I feel like 2020, we have had enough tricks. So I think, and I would suggest, that we focus on the treat part of Halloween. And maybe make Halloween a treat yourself self-care day. Yes, you can still carve the pumpkins, and yes, you can have your pumpkin spice latte, your pumpkin bread, and yeah, throw in some candy corns if you like as well. And also think about what are ways that you can treat yourself this weekend. There is so much going on in our world. We've got some huge things coming up next week with the election. How can you take some time for some self-care treating this holiday weekend? Those are my thoughts. So, get ready and listen up to today's tip from Singh.
Hello everyone, this is Singh, aka Investing of the Investing Podcast with your weekly Financial Friday tip. I'm coming to you from a rainy New Jersey right now, and it's pouring down. When it pours, are you safe from the treacherous and dangers that come from not having enough? When bad things happen, are you prepared? Now it's time to prepare and always be preparing for those worst case scenarios that happen to your finances and anything else in your life. So be prepared. With that said, that is your weekly Financial Friday tip, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Coach Colette with this week's Unplugged segment. So I took advantage of the fact that I could vote early here in New York City, and I was pleasantly surprised by my experience in terms of the fact that my whole voting experience took under an hour, including the wait online. And I also was impressed by the efficiency. They handed out these pens that had rubber tips. So when I passed over my chip so that I could check in at the registration table and then sign on the iPad, everything was almost completely contactless. And then filling out the ballot with that same pen was simple. And yet we can't minimize that my actions and the actions of all of us that we are taking in this election, we really can't take them for granted. We know that people literally died for us to have the right to vote. And so it's so important for us to exercise that right and take advantage of and leverage our voice and our vote. And it's prompted me to also explore and look at some of the voting issues that still exist in this country, and also recognizing the fact that there are still so many discrepancies in terms of how people vote, and that there are still discriminatory policies like voter ID laws, cuts to early voting, polling place closures, and limits to pre-registration. And there have been so many of these controversies, and we know that many of them, in fact, probably most of them, impact marginalized communities, whether that be people of color, people who have been formerly incarcerated, and other marginalized groups. So it's really important. This election, it really is about voting like your life depends upon it, because it does, and also finding ways to stay informed about the political process that still allow you to I want to say maintain your sanity. I will admit that in the past, politics was a bit of a blind spot for me in that I've always voted, and yet I haven't always been as actively curious or proactive about learning about elections and learning about issues on the ballot. And that has definitely changed for me in the past 4 years. And why I mentioned the fact about honoring your boundaries, I think that that's the same for all media consumption. Finding ways that you stay informed, finding ways that you stay in the know without letting it completely drain you. For some of us, that might mean only watching or listening to the news at certain times of the day. I definitely do not listen to the news as the last thing before I go to sleep. And also thinking about how much media you consume on social media. Again, it's important to stay informed, it's important to stay involved, and it's also important to maintain your mental health and well-being, because that's what's going to keep you able to stay informed and stay involved. It's kind of a circuitous loop. I have no idea what I'll be speaking about next week because, again, there are so many things that may shift or may not shift. I just wanted to share my early voting experience. I hope that you have made your plans to vote. I hope that you have discussed this with your friends and family to ensure that they have made their plans to vote. And yes, stay tuned. So enjoy this Halloween weekend. Remember to treat yourself, and we'll be speaking again soon. So what is your takeaway from this week's Financial Fridays segment? What might you do differently around your money and your mindset? For more financial advice, you can check out Suki's podcast, Invest Singh, where I also share tips on his Wellness Wednesdays segment. If you enjoyed this episode and haven't already subscribed, you can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Coach_Colette for more inspiration on personal growth and wellness. Tune in next Friday for another episode and get ready to start within to finish strong.